Welcome back. Welcome to How Billy Sees It. Another episode at the porch here. This time with the hoodie, with the distressed hoodie. Super distressed, yeah. I actually bought this hoodie, and when I took it home, then I realized how deeply distressed it was. At first, I thought it had these little cool little cuts and stuff, a little more subtle. Then I was like, what the? Anyway, what up? Um, Intentions today. The title of this is, I think I'm going to make a title it Intentions and Authenticity. Um, and I want to continue intentions. Intentions was something that came up last time, yesterday, when I was on here. Came up near the end. It came up when I was talking about how I think the mainstream media fails to tell us full and accurate stories. I was trying to say that they fail to do that because they don't include often enough intentions. They do it in very particular ways. Often they're concealing intentions when convenient for them. They're having all kinds of weird, goofy, and fake conversations, like Scott Jennings on CNN, um, without awareness, without telling the audience the intentions that this man exists only to spout MAGA nonsense. He's a MAGA nonsense mouth. That's what he is. He's a mouth. They just put him at the table to take up space and take up time. A counterweight, they think. They come up with a theory that you're having a conversation of adults trying to figure out things in the world, give accurate language to the world, and then we probably need a counterweight. We need to counter that with an idiot who says nonsense and reads transcripts and parrots whatever the president says. We need that at the table too. Um, and then they pay him handsomely with that intention, literally to warp the discourse, knowing that millions of people will go home and borrow the language they just heard on CNN, will presume the assumptions from the quote unquote experts they see on CNN. And so intentions are important for us to understand what's really going on. Understand, like I said, as a child, I thought I was looking at professional adults using the best language to describe the world in the best way. It's like, oh no, there are other things going on. There's intentions going on. So I want to talk about intentions. Intentions are a big part about what is. I talked about yesterday about like trying to look at the world and understand what is, to care about that, about the truth of the world. And so a lot of time when you see people acting, you're looking at actions. We can describe actions, but that different actions, or that the same actions can have multiple intentions, and that the intentions are going to be very valuable and important for you to assess what the fuck is going on, assess how you should respond. Think about if somebody pokes you in the eye, for instance, at a restaurant, you'd be upset about that. But if a baby did it, you know what I'm saying? If you were holding a baby at a restaurant, a little 1-year-old, and the finger pokes you in the eye, if you're a decent and calm, composed, well-adjusted adult, hopefully you understand that the intentions of the baby weren't that, and the babies can flail, and so you'd approach the whole thing differently. You approach the whole thing differently. I think that's important. That's important to understand. I said yesterday also that the genocide definition, the definition of genocide, written post World War II by some of the greatest thinkers, many of them Jewish. The genocide definition written by Raphael Lemkin, a Jewish man who just suffered the horrors of the European Holocaust. Intention is a pivotal part of the definition. Why? Why do you think? Oh, multiple reasons. Like I said, let's talk about the origin of the word and where it comes from. Post World War II, there was no word for this event that was occurring. This multiple series of violent actions, ethnocentric, displacement and murder, systematic over time, trying to remove a group of people from a place. There was no word for it, so he invented that word with intention, and it includes very much. It was set up for us to never have to experience it again. And dealt with intentions. It deals directly with intentions. It talks about clear examples of harm, and then it looks for the leaders at the time. If a genocide was occurring today, and it is, there's definitely one continuing in Gaza at the moment, perpetrated by Israel. You look at the leaders and you see what they're saying, and you assess the intention. Why? Because you don't want to catch a genocide after the fact. The goal by Raphael Lemkin and the Lemkin Institute, which continues to this day, which has ruled this a genocide, the Lemkin Institute has, the goal is to catch a genocide and genocidaires early, catch them early. You have to assess their intentions. You have to see what they're doing in the moment and listen closely to their actions and their words. And intentions are important. Obviously, we failed that. The people who are perpetrating the genocide have also tried their best to undermine the Lemkin Institute, undermine the UN, undermine all of the media organizations and the journalists who are supposed to be using appropriate language, who are supposed to help us understand and see the world correctly. The perpetrators of the genocide have actually tried to cast themselves as the victims as they continue more and more wars and expansions, and they undermine peace deals in Iran and elsewhere, and bomb civilians in Lebanon. These perpetrators, these violent people, mask their intentions. Their intentions are key. And the fact that people don't have a clear sense of the intentions, even though Netanyahu's very clear and open, and Ben Gvir and Smotrich and the settler people in the West Bank, which has nothing to do with Hamas, all that violence across these arenas, they've been very clear. The intentions are there. But unfortunately, we have a news media that is intentionally bought and paid, journalists who are intentionally failing to use the right language. So we have this whole facade. We have this whole what looks like a discourse happening. You go and turn on professional news and see people with suits and ties. You think there's a professional, appropriate discourse happening that is completely not real, because there's a layer of intention that has caused the different actors. Certain actors are not in the room, like appropriate. The journalists are not in the room. The people at the table have been chosen to confuse with intention, and they're using words with intention. And everyone needs to know that. Like, you need to know that when you're watching the news, or else you're confused. Or else you'll have no clue what the fuck is going on. Or else you'll be lost, as so many people are. Like, on Facebook, and you see someone posting about the current deal with Iran, or the violence in Lebanon, or the violence in Gaza. And so many people get on the comments. It can go anywhere. I mean, it's the comments that the people don't have a sense of reality, because intentions have been so cleverly and specifically removed from the analysis and the awareness. Intentions are important. And that's why I think we have to put it on the table too. We have to talk about where our intentions come from. I think it's funny that the intentions, I just did a whole series where I talked about authenticity. I went like 9 videos trying to analyze what I think authenticity is and how it shows up and what it means. We arrived at something like a definition of, like, it's a rolling and moving target. It's something that it's about the present. It's about right now, which is always now. It's always now. Tomorrow will be a new now. I can be authentically myself and different tomorrow. I certainly am authentically myself now and different than I was a year ago, for sure. I'm a different person. So my authenticity is different. And intentions are the byproduct of, no, let me take that over. How do I want to say this? Like I was saying, I said that actions come from beliefs in people's heads. When you see people doing things in the world, it's about what they think is going on in their heads, who they are, what they see, what the problems are in the world, their sense of their power, certain things that they might even consider as a problem. They say, it's outside of, I can't do it, I'm powerless. And so they kind of don't even see it. Intentions drive our actions, and intentions sit on top of our awareness. When I started my business several years ago and I was trying to be a good business person, I ended up missing lunch. I said this before. I bought these meal replacements, Soylent, and I was like a Soylent motherfucking king, drinking that almost exclusively. I'd have one meal a day. Sometimes I'd have 0 meals a day. And that might not have made sense. It certainly wasn't super healthy. It didn't make sense. But the intentions were to be super efficient and to be able to capitalize on every minute of the day for money. That's the story in my head. That's the story in my head. And that's why the authenticity question is so important, because without being where I am now, without grounding myself in a confidence in myself and in knowing myself, I was stuck in a different, what am I trying to say here? Hmm. You can only have intentions. Your intentions can only meet like your awareness, I guess. You know what I mean? Your intentions they correlate with your awareness. If I keep going, like when I first left CNN 5, 6 years ago, I feel like for a long time there was this like real attention where I was attention for me, an internal kind of struggle where, I didn't want to entirely burn all the bridges that I had and all the networks that I developed. Um, though I had to, though I knew I needed to say what I needed to say, I needed to present my critique and engage in the media literacy that I knew. You know what I'm saying? So, hmm. But I think somewhere for me, there was this like, I wanted to roast the news media. I wanted to educate. I knew I had a bunch of like people in the news media that were following me or knew me or were friends, and I wanted to maybe alert them to what was going on, give them the opportunity to leave, something like this. I wanted to disrupt conversations that my intentions were to disrupt stories, the stories that people had about what CNN was, or that stories about objective news. And I think what's happened now, when I think about my intentions today, I think I have something very different. I think the world has changed. I think I've changed, and I'm approaching it differently. I have a different set of intentions. I'm not speaking to people in the news industry. I'm speaking to my neighbors. I'm speaking to my family. I'm speaking to people I care about. I'm speaking to the average person, the average man, woman, and child who is trying to navigate this world, as I talked about yesterday. Is trying to navigate this world safely and has a general sort of good approach to life. You know what I mean? And I'm speaking to them. I'm speaking to us. I'm speaking to smart people. I'm speaking to kind people. I'm speaking to empowered people. People who know that they are powerful. They know that their words matter and that their actions matter. People who understand that their mental health is important. And I want to see if we can actually do a genuine and proper job of engaging in reality together. We can collaborate and compete and have fun and live and thrive abundantly together. Because the traditional story doesn't allow for that. It wants to sell us on winners and losers, and it wants to have us clamoring on top of each other. Yeah. I'm also speaking to myself, frankly. I'm also discovering more and more the power of like not really caring too much to try to reach out there for some demographic. I think that's one of the problems that a lot of people have, particularly in the political space, when they get on as journalists or as political commentators one way or the other. You develop an audience, you develop a sense of the audience. And even when new information arrives and there's a new perspective that you could have and a new and like an appropriate shift in your intentions and an appropriate genuine shift in your awareness, that you might be locked in with an audience, that you might be appealing to something. It will pull you away from being genuine. I'm not into that. I'm not building that. I don't have that. I'm excited that I don't have that. I know that people are grappling with that, struggling with that. I've seen it at the highest levels. Fox News grapples with that. CNN grapples with that. How can they begin to call the genocide what it is? Not only are their employers not going to be happy with that, but the New York Times tried to report on the mass and structural policy of rape in Israeli prisons. They tried to do a report after years of terrible reporting. Or reporting that masks and favors Israel. They tried to report on that, and they got people protesting in front of New York Times. People protesting, and I can tell you, as someone who worked at CNN, I can tell you the truth. There's that same concern and that same fear. There's the same sort of like, we have an audience, and it's Zionist, and we've been perpetrating a story of just pure victimhood and October 7th and nothing, and defense, self-defense, and we've had Netanyahu on here, and we have an audience, and we're just gonna keep rolling with it, even we're just gonna keep rolling with it, what a terrible thing, what a trap to have to be in, chasing and trying to sustain a certain audience instead of maybe chasing and sustaining truth and giving language to truth repeatedly. How much easier is it to just articulate truth? I find it very easy. I feel very lucky. It's hard to make up stuff. It's hard to lie. It's hard to reshape narratives for demographics. It's easy to give language to truth. Unfortunately, also, there's just so many efforts to undermine truth. There's so many efforts to make people frightened to even engage with truth, make people frightened to use clear and obvious language. It's not just happening at CNN. It happens more broadly across society. I don't know. I don't think that's sustainable, though. I think truth asserts itself. I think reality asserts itself. And I want to align my intentions with reality. First and foremost, I want to align my intentions with God. I mean, this is the strange thing I've been dealing with, and I'm gonna wrap it up with this: is that the whole question of authenticity, the question of intentions, the question of truth, journalism as a extension of that, as a human endeavor to articulate truth on a daily basis, something like this. See, they twisted it where journalism is just people in suits saying the words that their employers put on the teleprompter. That's what journalism. No, journalism is the effort to give accurate language to the moment over and over. Just like history books. It's not about who paid for the history books, what words to put down, you know what I'm saying, to favor them. It's about articulating what happened. And journalism is about articulating what's happening. But my intentions have developed and I've had to do a great deal of self-examination and growth and awareness. And I've made efforts to expand myself and to challenge myself against the world, to be shaped into such a person that can confidently assert his intentions. I'm not following somebody's orders. I'm not trying to be validated. My intentions are not to be validated. I'm trying to make my father proud, my grandfather proud. So I produce a completely different product from that place. Produce a different type of content. And I think so much of one of the challenges with the journalism space is that it was built as an extension of the entertainment space. It was built as like, you know what I'm saying, before it was 24-hour news, it was just like it was like an hour it was an hour at the night as part of the entertainment. It was an extension of entertainment, as opposed to the deeply profound, like I said, articulation of truth that the world needs, that it sometimes claims to be objective and just the facts and all this stuff. But because it was an extension of the entertainment, and it was a profit-seeking, entertaining energy, that's what it was. Those are the constituent parts of it. You know, it brought us down the shit path. You know what I'm saying? And all these things are either being reformed or being broken down, or we're watching them decompose. We're watching them destroy themselves because they're not able to keep up with what reality is. They're not able to keep up with people's awareness. So I think that's a powerful, interesting thing. Are you noticing that as we document what's going on in the world and all the shitty fuckery and the Donald Trump stuff and ICE and the wars? Are we documenting that as well? Are we documenting the ways that young people have a completely different sense and orientation towards media and towards this like communication, you know? And there's no way to know where that goes and what that means, but it certainly won't be like it was before. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I think that's it. I think that's the message. Yo, like and subscribe, yo. We're talking about intentions. I'm going to try to like explore it a bit further probably again tomorrow. Unless something else inspires me, I'm going to go that direction. But intentions as an extension of authenticity and sort of the precursor to action. And as we document all these different actions, intentions are also important to note. They are important parts of what is. And it's important for you to operate from your intention. It's important to know what others' intentions are, but most important, you should operate from your intention. You need to do that authenticity work so that you can be intentional. Yeah. All right. Like and subscribe. Later. Peace.